So, Michael, I'm dying to know what happened with the whole going to buy glasses thing. Did you get some?
I did. Now, did I go over that we went to a the iStore we went to? It was great commerce in this day and age. We went to the nice mall here down by the arena, and there are two glasses stores literally next door to each other, right? And so, like, the way I selected them was based on the how do you say placard? Based on the placard that seemed to have the best deal that week. And I think that's kind of like, I mean, you do a lot of this kind of work, Ed. I'm sure it can feel like sometimes competitive stuff, even for the most complicated software, is basically that. It's just like, who's got the
Yeah.
coolest sign outside their Kubernetes cluster?
Yeah, I
Who's
like the
really cool?
colors on that one. Well, we'll have that one.
Exactly. So my wife and I went in, and they had a deal where if you get two, what was it? You could get three glasses for the price of the most expensive one. Whatever that deal is.
Three glasses for the pair of four, for the price of four. What a bargain.
and 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 then this is another thing I was thinking about you, Ed. There was some complicated pricing spreadsheet where if you only wanted to get one extra pair of glasses, you could redeem a voucher that you could give to someone, which would give them like 50% off their second pair of glasses. I don't know. It was crazy. And then I could go on about that. That was actually, now that I'm reliving it in my head, a great example of software eating the world, but doing a bad job at it.
It
Anyways,
sounds like a pyramid scheme for glasses.
well, I mean, since there's a little bit of interest, that the guy doing, he was this great guy. I enjoyed his company a lot. But the way to redeem this voucher was he had to like send an email on my behalf, and then that emailed him back like, the 64 letter code of a voucher. Then he had to copy and paste that into his ordering system so that he could do the ordering for me, right? And it was just like, man, I can just imagine there were like 3 to 4 different teams who didn't want to have a meeting 7 months ago, and they were just like, I got it. What if we just fire off an email and they can redeem that? And then their product manager was like, solved. Let's go get lunch. And that's how computers happen. And computering and software seems to happen in the real world. But so I got glasses. Here you go. You can give me a
Oh
review
yeah,
here.
let's take a look. Oh, look at that! Very
Huh?
smart. Check
This
it
is
out.
these are Ray Bans called Mr. Burbank. I guess that's a reference to California. I'm assuming there's probably a Burbank over there in the UK.
Nice.
So I think it's almost great minds think alike. I've just got a new set of glasses, which look remarkably like yours, I would say.
Yes.
Apart from maybe thinner rimmed and not branded, sadly.
Oh yeah.
Bog
Yeah.
standard, because I
And
figured I wouldn't really wear them. And I work at home. Nobody's going to see me apart from now people on this podcast.
yeah,
Now,
and then I got a second pair. You
Ooh,
see, do the
snazzy.
sunglasses
There
thing.
you go.
oh, the sunglasses pair.
But
Everyone's-
and it's the same. The one that I wanted didn't exist, and so I had the brilliant. Speaking of brilliant programmer insights, I was like, well, why don't I just get the same frames, and then I can go to lunch. I don't have to think about this anymore. And so
Sweet.
there we are. So now I think my setup here is just at the range where I can still see, so I don't wear these at my desk. But boy, I know I guess you two have glasses, so you know this, but the world is basically like in 4K. I was thinking it was like a 4:3 aspect ratio, like maybe, I don't know if it was in TSC or PAL, but I was sorely mistaken for many years, perhaps a decade or more.
Yeah, you think the world's all like HD, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, oh my word. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Ed though. I also need, as I use these so much now, I need like a second pair because it's inevitable that I'm going to lose them or break them or do something.
Yes.
So I've done the same as Ed and gone down to local opticians, and getting like a basic pair. They're so basic. They've been waiting at the opticians for like 3 weeks.
I guess the only downside is that I've realized that, well, maybe this is good therapy for me, is I realize that I'm not the only human in existence whose face kind of looks like a better part of the moon. Everyone else has kind of character and stuff going on with their face and skin, which is nice to
I
know.
thought you meant the coloring, because this is kind of, this is moony, I would say. You stare
yeah.
up at the moon, you get the different shades of grey.
I was, you know,
We're all in the grey and the glasses.
we've been working on some keynote scripting for a conference you and I've been, and I went back and watched again your keynoting of the Spring 1 2020
I
video.
apologize.
No, that it was, and we talked about this previously, and you pointed out several things, and going back to look at it, and it is. I think having the green screen where they cut out you and Brian, right? And
Oh yeah, it looks better.
it was. I think I kind of like it. It's very. I don't know. I think I enjoyed the aesthetic, and what I enjoy about the aesthetic is that it's an accidental aesthetic that someone came up with, but it's definitely there if you look for it. So I think it's good.
It's awful. I hate it. I look back at it
Oh.
and I go, "Oh man," because
I know.
that was sprung like right at the last second. Like all this big box arrived with all the gear in it, you know, recording equipment and lights and green screen and all that sort of stuff, and they all put it all up. And then the day of the conference, it's like, right, you're going to look like this, and there was no choice. It was like, oh. Okay. I look like the whitest guy alive for the whole thing. I don't know what was going on with the white balance, but
You're a proper Brit. That's all it means.
oh yeah, it looks like I've never seen sunlight.
There was no conservatory to or a solarium. Did I get that right? Solarium. Then you could hang out there. Well, speaking of all the recording gear, we've got a little bit of a backlog of news to go through. We've gone through and selected some things that I think. Well, I'll tell you the filter I use. Fun to talk about, but hopefully relevant as well. So, well, first of all, we had VMware Explore last week. Were you at that, Ed? If so,
I wasn't. No.
Oh,
I used
okay.
to go to the VMworld all the time before I joined VMware, and then I've gone quite rarely ever since.
Yes. Well, we have so many internal emails about what's happening that you can just get the summary of it through there, which is always good stuff. But I thought, I don't want to go over all the world of VMware Explore world and everything, but at least our friend, our coworker Cindy, wrote up a summary of the Tanzu related things, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can go look at it at tanzutalk.com. But just to give a quick rundown, it's a rare instance where I have actually read and prepared, so I can give the summary of it. We have our Tanzu Kubernetes grid, which I more or less think of as our Kubernetes distro plus a bunch of extra stuff on it. And there's some management support that was added in for various ways of doing cluster stuff, but also now it has support for running on Oracle Cloud, which, as we'll get to if we get to the new Gartner Magic Quadrant, we'll have to maybe we can look at the Magic Quadrant and circle all of the clouds that the Tanzu Kubernetes grid runs on. And then also there's I don't think it's quite out yet, but the Tanzu Mission Control is going to be made air gap, which is to say you don't need the internet to use it, which there are many people who are into that kind of thing.
Oh, tons, yeah.
And it proves, like, we should name this rule, but maybe there's the software defined talk podcast rule of SaaS startups, which is eventually you're going to be on premise. So why not just do it from the start? Like is what always happens. And then there were the Tanzu Service Mesh, which is perhaps one of the more descriptive products out there. It looks like what it's added in is some, it was some roadmap discussion that they had, things that we're working on and coming, and there'll be some nice auto discovery of your Kubernetes and your VM based things. But then also it'll be fun to see how this pans out. I obviously didn't read the details, but it looks like they're working on, I would say, storing the configuration and policy, in Git somewhere, so you can do GitOps style stuff, which usually aids in not only automating things better, but also trying to automate compliance and governance and security stuff. And then finally, back at the US one, there was the announcement of the ARIA graph thing, which was basically a way, as far as I understand it, to discover your network topology and start doing some CMDB-ish stuff. And there's a freemium version of that you can use that I think only works on AWS and Azure. But that would be fun as a former person who read a bunch of ITEL books. See how that type of stuff is doing. I used to get very excited.
Around, is it?
Oh yeah.
Not on ITIL. I'm quite glad I've got an ITIL. But yeah, your phrase of configuration management database brought back all those. Maybe it's a bit like single pane of glass, isn't it? Everything will be there. No, it won't.
Yeah, and I always took a lot of delight in doing SNMP walks of my printers and home network, and so it'd be fun to see how that works out.
We were talking fun. None of that is fun.
Well, this is back when I was a programmer, so my definition of fun was a lot different. And there's also, if you want to go check out Cindy's post, you can see there's some updates to the Bitnami product we have, which is the Tanzu marketplace or market, if I recall the actual new name of it. And also there's some sovereign cloud support, which was a broader VMware Explore topic, just some work with partners that we have across VMware to run in your regions instead of not running in your regions. If you're interested in sovereign cloud stuff. So when y'all hear the word sovereign cloud, do you think of the monarchy? Because isn't that more of the synonym for sovereign over there in the UK? It's a specific person.
Used to be, I think, yeah. But we've had so many years of politicking about sovereignty and taking back control.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
The word has been.
I want a cloud in my back garden, please. The one thing I can control.
That's right. The word has been reclaimed for how the rest of the world uses it. Well, that's too bad. Anyhow, so yeah, did y'all? You were at VMware Explore, Ben. How was the unpublished part of the show being there?
It was amazing. It was really, really good. I wasn't sure what to expect. It's my first VMware event, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but I was blown away by the quality of the conversations that we had. I did booth duty for the whole sort of 3 days. Did many hours on the booth and spoke to a ton of people, and the level of interest was fantastic. It was really, really good. So
yeah, you really get that at a booth. You get to see everyone while you're hanging out at the booth there.
We've lost him. Nice. He's gone.
Oh, you've only lost my video, I think.
Yeah.
I'll try and get that back while you're talking. But yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, it was really good, and it was nice to see you as well. I saw you there. I even saw you around a table with some food on it, loads of tapas.
Yeah,
if I recall, tapas obviously. Basically every night seemed to be how it worked. So we became very familiar with tapas menus, as I'm sure you did as well. And it was nice to hang out, and spend some time with folks that we've not seen for such a long time. So it was also a really good sort of networking opportunity, I think.
Yeah, it was nice. Get some meals with people and other stuff. Now, I didn't do an extensive. I used to do these videos way back when during South by Southwest, where we would go around and find the best swag and do some reviews. So I didn't get to do that tour. However, I think there's only one type that I saw which I'm going to crown the best, and that was at the Lenovo booth. There was a beer tap, and it was one of those tiny. South European beer cups that you get. Have you ever noticed? Did we talk about this before? Where the further south you go, the tinier the beer glasses get. I think there's something to that.
Could be.
I mean, they always have the large ones, but the kind of like default is to give you that little.
Is this because really the further south you get, you should be drinking wine?
Yeah, I think that's probably also related.
It's like a disincentive. Like you can have a thimble full of beer, or you can have like a jug of wine or sangria or something. Yeah.
There's probably some
thimble of port or something worse.
There's probably some. Would it be a longitude? There's probably some latitude or longitude, whichever one is horizontal, or some river, and that's considered the beer wine divide. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere probably sort of mid France, isn't it? Maybe Switzerland, that kind of line. Germany, bottom of Germany, something like that. But the sangria as well. Oh, good Lord. The sangria was good.
Yep. Yeah. Well, anyways, the Lenovo booth had a beer tap. So that was, I think that was, all you had to do is get your badge scanned. And that kind of like conference badge scanning transaction is great, where you just walk up and they give you a beer and they're like, how's it going? Can I see your badge? And then you can just like, the marketing people back at headquarters are like, wow, great job. Look at all these leads. And, works out well. Also, let's see. In the meantime, outside of the VMware Explore area. I thought, I was looking through your collection of news, Ed, and it looks like there is further, stuff in the platform engineering Backstage area. Red Hat, I think back at KubeCon, they announced that they're kind of like in on Backstage, joining that project and working on it. And I think a few episodes ago I talked with a few people at the front side, which if you're listening to this in order, you must have heard. But if not, you can go back in the archives and listen to it. And I think also a significant milestone in the platform engineering think, it has passed through the previous way of thinking is dead news cycle, which is good. Usually how that ends, if you want to declare your predecessor's dead, is some of your predecessors show up and they're like, it's kind of unfortunate that you're saying I was dead, and that makes me feel bad. And all the people who put this energy into there. And then the previous declarer of the previous regime is dead is like, oh, sorry about that. And then everyone's friends and we move on. But have you seen any other interesting Backstage or platform engineering stuff since last we talked, Ed?
Probably, because there is a non-stop set of it. And I keep following down the rabbit hole. If you find a good blog, so you follow some links, you find another good blog, you find some more impact. And particularly with that developer platform piece, it means an awful lot of things to an awful lot of people. So there's a quite big variety of things to link. But the one I saw was around the working group stuff. Actually, they did a wrap up of sort of KubeCon and trying to, I guess, come up with some definitions of what, and this being a more generic CNCF, what should be in a developer platform, generic components, and getting together lots of vendors and things. So it's kind of, I like those mental frameworks. I want to kind of read something and see, does this one fit? Does that one fit? I'll send you the link. We can put that in the show notes as well. But it was an interesting take, I guess, because otherwise a lot of them are, a developer platform is what we are selling. Whereas this isn't. This is, we're trying to come up with what is everybody doing and how would they all fit some kind of taxonomy. Here's our thoughts. And they've got an open doc at the minute anyone can go and contribute to. And they're kind of working on a first draft of coming up with some kind of report by the end of the year. So given that we've had tons of blog posts and conversations, that seems like a nice place where it's all coalescing a little.
And, there's another piece I wanted to ask you about, I'm remembering now, which is there was some post in the news stack, I think, that you highlighted that was going over like what cloud native is. And I remember reading through it, and to your point, thinking like, I think the CNCF has a definition from like 4 or 5 years ago, and so like we should just go with that. But I don't know, there were like 3 or 4. I'll have to find that and dig it up. But it was
they're doing a glossary, aren't they? That was probably the one they're trying to come up with, a glossary, I guess, to try and reclaim a few terms, or at least stop everyone saying it means what I want it to mean. It's a bit like the definition of cloud forever ago. Who was it? Was it somebody did a definition of cloud back in the day, and the 3 different dimensions, and then that got debated for 15 years, but it didn't change anything.
Yeah, and there was, I'm sure I've made this joke before, but then everyone forgets the 4th cloud, the community cloud. I think it was there somewhere, but it just it got lost. It went down. It went to its own community, and it was not seen from again. Which, ironically, I guess was the intention of the community cloud. But yeah, I think so. Maybe that's the other thing I wanted to note, is that I think I'm warming up to this term developer experience, which I know for us was a big word over the past 12, 18 months, but I always felt like it was a little weird. But I was talking with a friend recently, and they said this kind of work that they do with other organizations, he called them the DX team. And so I don't know, if someone else is saying the DX team and that's what people call themselves, maybe I should start saying developer.
Possibly only Citroen doing that. Maybe they still have a DX team somewhere that keeps old DXs on the road. I think it's okay to be a connoisseur of classics.
There is, I don't know which Citroen it is, but there's a really nice like 80s vintage one in the neighborhood here somewhere. I think there's someone in my neighborhood who's into old cars, because there's like a late 70s like Ford F-150 pickup truck that I see a lot. Then there's that Citroen that I see a lot. And then there's also, I've seen this recently, there is like the stereotypical 80s Camaro that they drive around sometimes. And it's, I don't know. I need to find out. I should leave a note and be like, could we get lunch I
Yeah,
want to
see,
talk
the
about
Jersey
your cars.
equivalent of that is that there is I don't know, sort of a vintage tractor association. And it's a small island, right? And I think twice a year they all go out and they just sort of drive around the island. And they're great. They're the really old, slow tractors, I guess, within reason. No cab or anything else. So, just driver sat on top of it with a wheel. And when you see one, they are kind of cool looking. And then you get like 30 of them in a row winding around these little lanes. It's not, race cars or anything else. But there is something quite cool about these old tractors.
We
Without
have
the
the
massive
same.
wheels, of two tiny front wheels, no cabin or anything.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
the same thing here, Ed. It's like the old Massey Fergusons and that sort of
Mm.
thing. And also they do it in Steam. They go back and bring out the Steam tractors and do whole kind of shows and stuff. Amazing. Really good. Really, really beautiful machines. Really
They
worth
are.
seeing.
Yeah, and,
Not
and
very
you-
practical, but I like them.
you, yeah, and,
Totally impractical. but
and then you can have the 2-hour event, how we used to make a board, which I'm sure was exciting.
You mean
Lots of
like a
planing.
CPU board, like
Yeah,
in someone's
exactly.
garage in Silicon Valley? That
A
sort of
printed
thing.
circuit board from
How we used to do
from lumber
PCBs.
to printed circuit boards. A short history of boards. Well, as just a brief mention, they're also, I think, the Gartner Magic Quadrant for what do they call it, Ed? Cloud infrastructure or something?
Yeah, I think it's Cloud IaaS and PaaS, isn't it? I can't
Yeah,
remember
that's
the
that's
official name.
that's what I
My
rewrote
takeaway
the
was,
title.
They've published another Magic Quadrant, and all the big clouds are like, and we're all there at the top. Yeah, well, is anyone surprised? Not really.
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
how long before they stop doing that one.
Well, I think all of the people in positions they like, you can go to their websites for free and download it. I think I'll put a link to the one at Google that you can get. But yes, to your point, you do look at it, and it's one of the more, it looks like winter came early because there's a lot of snow in that Magic Quadrant, just a lot of white space. I don't know if that joke worked, but I thought I'd try it out. But
It looks like a map of Antarctica on a small scale. Something.
There you go. But they tell you you're not supposed to rank things based off the quadrant. However, I went and ranked them. I eyeballed the ranking, as if you drew a line from the bottom left to the right where the positions that it would fall in. And it looks like you got AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba, Oracle, IBM, Tencent, and Huawei at the end. So that's what you got going on there. But you can check that out. I didn't actually read the analysis. I just looked at the chart to see what was going on there. And then,
I can do.
I think we should probably. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the community with respect to where lots of conversation has happened over the past 15, however many years, and that is the thrilling joyride going on over there at Twitter now. Now, whenever it comes to discussing this, obviously, since there's so many like layoffs and weird pathological situations, like that's no good from a human perspective. But then it also is, not to say that aside, but with that acknowledged, there is plenty. It's a rare example because it's so public of seeing a bunch of digital transformation and DevOpsy and cloud native stuff put to the test in a negative way. Like, do we actually need these things? But what have you been paying attention to there, Ben?
Well, it's like Chaos Monkey personified, isn't it? I mean, it's like, let's just go and pull out various plugs and things and see what happens. It's basically chaos engineering, but top down. I don't know. Yeah. It's a tire fire. It's absolutely awful. I feel really bad for the engineers in that particular business right now. I tweeted about this as well. I've seen it before. It's so boring. It's like totally predictable. I've seen it before. New person comes in, creates a crisis, says they're the only person who can fix it because they're a genius. Then they can't fix the crisis. Then it's everybody else's fault. Then they leave. Then everybody's left to sort of pick up the pieces. We've seen it hundreds of times before. This is nothing new. There is no genius here. It's just a race to the bottom. And then whatever's left, do you even want to be a part of it? I'm questioning whether I'm going to use Twitter anymore. I'm sort of like, I'm bored of it. I'm over it. I wonder if it's time to move on. And I'm sure there's a lot of other folks feel that way. And yeah, I think there's a lack of empathy for what it's like to do engineering on this sort of scale. I don't think any of the other businesses really have the same problems, so trying to apply the same methods to fix it probably won't work.
It does feel a bit, is it Chesterton's fence? I think it is. You might remember this. That the idea that you walk up somewhere, there's a fence in the middle of a road where it shouldn't be. And you're like, well, why? What's that doing there? Take that out. And they're like, no, actually figure out why someone put it there in the first place. It might be there for a reason. And it is that tendency, like you said, to just come in and go, well, this is silly, isn't it? We should obviously have people playing for a blue tick mark. Put that in. Oh, you didn't put it in because it doesn't work. Okay, take it back out then. All right, that was.
Did you see all the false tweets and stuff, false brands and things?
Yeah.
Like, oh my word!
But, in some ways, it's sort of reassuring. I mean, does Twitter need a shake-up? Maybe. There was an interesting post. I can't remember the chap's name now, but he runs 37 Signals. Begins in an H, which won't help you at all, and you'll find him with a quick Google. But anyway, he had an interesting post around it, sort of putting it in a bit of context and other times when similar things have happened to a good effect. And saying, we all think Musk is being a bit of an idiot around it, but he does at least have pedigree of running some good businesses. Whether he runs them well or not, I have no idea, but does he just drive people harder? Does he just say it can be done? And when it works, it's great, but if it fails, it's going to look awful. And Twitter is very, very public. So like you said, I guess it's just the public nature of that bigger change on something that touches everybody. And therefore, a lot of people, right? Not everyone uses Twitter, but a lot of people are like, and I'm the same. I used to use Twitter a lot, kind of dropped off it. It went a bit toxic anyway. I'd like something to change, I guess, because I'd pretty much stopped using it anyway. Will it get better or worse? If it gets worse at this point, I'm not too fussed. I spent years building up a bit of a following, or it happened. I didn't build it consciously, but so a bit of a shame. I don't use many other social networks anymore. And I've seen sort of some talk about Mastodon, but that all seems to be the very tech people look at that. For everyone else, it just seems to be a bit too complicated and just wouldn't really work. So if it's not there, it's just one less, I guess. I think it'd be interesting to see where it goes. Who knows? Maybe it'll work out better.
I think on the point about the other businesses, though, if you look at the other businesses, the ones that still involved with SolarCity, Tesla, SpaceX, all have a very grand vision about what they want to do. SolarCity, Space, and Tesla work together very well. It's all about that kind of sustainable engineering. SpaceX is about expanding our reach and making space more accessible. What the hell has Twitter got to do with any of this? It doesn't have a grand scheme. The grand scheme seems to be let's burn it to the ground. So
your grand scheme should be: can we get everyone collaborating without the toxicity? Can you turn it into a positive conversation, right? Which was
who said what evidence is there that toxicity is something that they're trying to remove? I don't.
I'm not saying there is. I'm saying that should be the vision.
Should be, yeah, but not
when they first started. That was kind of what everyone liked about the social media. It hooked you up, and you only got the good bits, and then they got full of junk accounts and everything else. So there could still be a grand vision of actually, if you could harness everyone everywhere to do good stuff, then they're brilliant platforms. I've no idea if that is the intention. I guess we can give the benefit of the doubt and say Musk has visions of wanting to make things better in different ways. Whether you would agree with them, maybe, but
this seems like the odd one out. The others are all engineering businesses. Even the trains in a tube thing, has a point. This doesn't seem to have a point.
Yeah. And then that's well. You two have brought up two interesting things. Like one, I hadn't thought of the obvious thing you were saying, Ben, of like, this is the same pattern. You could call it the I don't know, the crisis-driven Chesterton's fence demolition, right? Where you got to come up with some like crisis to do something, and then you leave, and everyone has to rebuild the fence, and they're like, I don't know how this is different than the fence we already had. Yeah. It was working pretty well. This is also the second time in 30 days I've heard a Chesterton's fence reference, which is I don't know what I'm doing with my life that I've heard it twice, but I'm doing it. And then there's also the the not having or having a grand plan and what it should be. That's also interesting to think of in the sense of maybe that's why there's all this rotating on like, well, why don't we just, solve international money transfers with Twitter? Like, you got to come up with some big ambitious thing. But I wonder,
You mean like PayPal?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wonder if, one of the things in, I talk about with people who are trying to get better at software, who are trying to eat the software or whatever, is that you do need like some kind of urgency. And I guess another type of urgency is like something big to do. And so there is sort of a question of like, yeah, what do you do when you run out of urgency? Like there's no more like big grand thing to pursue. And then on the other hand, the other side of that, which I was thinking about maybe yesterday is, like you were saying, Ed, I mean, I've used Twitter for like 16 years and I feel like probably it's been directly responsible for all sorts of good stuff, mostly in my career that's happened in my life. I can't think of bad stuff it's been responsible for, but one doesn't like to poke the bear when it comes to that. But like, it also like if we didn't have Twitter, there wouldn't really be like 24-hour urgency to anything anymore. We would just have to like wait for the newsletters to come out or for someone to send us an email or RSS feeds. Yeah. Well, I guess, but there would be urgency inside groups, but maybe not this sort of like global urgency. We might like, I don't know if we'll ever break out of the 24-hour cycle, but like we'll get closer and closer to like the Economist urgency. We're just like, I don't know, I can wait till next week. It's cool. Don't need to know what's going on. But
I think like most billionaires just basically buy, I don't know, a Bugatti or something and then smash it into a tree. But but instead we're buying businesses and smashing those into trees instead. It's the same cycle repeating, surely.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next meeting. Usually the trope is like, we want to run like Google or Facebook or whatever, and hopefully someone will say soon, we want to run like the big tech companies except Twitter. We don't want to run like Twitter. That would be fun to hear in some little executive soiree about digital transformation stuff. Well, also we came out with our state of supply chain open source edition survey. Did y'all get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, I'd had a sneak peek at that, and it was good. It was nice to see that survey repeated again, and across a wide sort of range of businesses of different sizes responding to that. Turns out that devs go faster and they're more productive with a supply chain, which is a good validation, I think, of many of the things that we've been talking about recently. I was fortunate enough to co-present a talk at Explore, which was about supply chains in part. I'll put a link in the show notes for that. But yeah, it was good. I think it's a good survey. It's definitely worth reading. We can link to that as well, can't we, in the show notes? If people want to have a look at the survey, they can.
For sure.
And a new product as well, a Tanzu Image Builder, which is about sort of packaging open source amongst other things, so that you can use them confidently in your organization and get some of that kind of code confidence back, which is something I'm thinking about a lot at the moment as well.
Code confidence. That sounds like a good YouTube short. Get your code confidence back.
It is, and I want to do it like there's a song, isn't there? Kissing with Confidence. I want to do it like that, but coding with confidence instead. I think that would be hilarious.
Who is it who does the piano songs recently? It was that really good one, wasn't there? There's a few of those. There should be a contract service by now that's, I need my IT rap. Can you do one for me, please?
Yeah. So yeah, coding.
I want to suggest maybe, Ben, I want to just give you a bit of a stretch goal. Maybe you could record a theme song for our podcast because we don't have any music, and that could be since it sounds like you're going to be moving into singing advice for programmers, and that is to say, not advice about singing, but you will be singing the advice.
No, I think you misunderstand. I was looking for some budget to go and find someone to record something. You really don't want to listen to this. I promise you that is not going to happen. And for all the right reasons as well. Yeah, you don't want that.
Well, fair enough. Well, I don't. Well, I did a little video, which I'll have to upload to our YouTube, but it's on a tech news website, kind of going over my part of what I thought was interesting from that supply chain study, the open source thing, which is basically just, as you were noting, Ben. I think you summarized it better. Is just like, it's no big mystery that most everyone uses open source, and actually, if you do look at the results, it's only like 2 or 3% of people who don't use open source, because I think there's maybe like 90% of people who weren't using open source, but a large part of that leftover 10% are people who are currently making their policy or haven't deployed their code yet. So there's actually a very small percentage who are just, I don't know who these people are. Like, they must not be using Linux, but there's some people, maybe they do like industrial control systems or something, where they've written everything from the ground up to, like, move a robot arm that installs watch parts or something. But anyhow, to your point,
that'd be Linux.
yeah,
That'd be embedded Linux, though, wouldn't it? It's like I can't think either. It's like, well, who's so invested on?
You'd like I think WebOS was open sourced. And then there's like QEMU or something.
Yeah, QEMU, yeah.
But I think that's open sourced.
Yeah.
Right? So like all these little like embedded OSs, I don't know. And then, well, maybe like the core of mainframe stuff isn't open sourced. So if you've got like a Unisys box somewhere, I don't know. But even then, probably like some tools, who knows? But I forget what I was, basically you need a supply chain to handle all that, so you don't have to worry about it.
But don't even browsers contain a whole bunch? Isn't there like open source license pages on the browser about pages and stuff? Like, there must be some
Chromium,
somewhere.
obviously, but
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
It is odd. Well, I think, is there any other news we should go over? I think in this episode we had a good cleaning out here. There's a whole bunch of links to dig into more details that you, the listener, or if you're watching us stream this live, you can go to. If you go to tanzutalk.com, and you can find this episode you can dig into. But is there anything else we should mention before we close out?
Well, like, if we're all, if folks do desert Twitter like a sinking ship, then where are they going to? Maybe they could tell us in the comments and tell us where they're going to. I guess Mastodon's very popular. I know you had a little play about with it recently, didn't you, Michael? Is that right?
Yeah. I set up a Mastodon thing. Sure. As you do when there's some new. I think like right as you get the early adopters, whatever is before the chasm, that's when you always got to go sign up and squat your name and check things out.
I like to think of it as the sort of the Wild West, the migration west in the US, where it's like, go and get your plot of land.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point where Ohio was the Wild West, I think, and so just there's some American geography for you. Check out Ohio, but good place. I think that's is it Cincinnati where they put cinnamon on their chili or something weird?
Oh, that sounds nice.
Have you all ever had that? The chili as in like ground, or as you would say, minced meat that's been seasoned with stuff, and then I'm pretty sure they put cinnamon on it in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I've definitely had something like that before. Yeah, it's good. But yeah, not so much the mincemeat being, trying to be good and plant-based and all that.
Oh,
but
sure.
Yeah.
You can have just bean chili. You don't have to put that.
Exactly. Oh, such good bean chili. Yeah.
Just whatever you do, don't put any type of squash or as we would say in the States, a zucchini in there, because you're just going to end up with mush. And if you want mush that's delicious, make some lentils, and that'll be better. Well, we record this at 11 a.m. Amsterdam time, 10 a.m. your time, when that means that I can go eat lunch now after all that food talk, which
nice.
Which will be great. Yes.
Well done. Yeah, I cannot eat lunch for another hour and 20 minutes.
Well, we are thinking about it, so thanks very much.
I must lose a bit of weight before Christmas so I can put it all back on again.
Well, maybe next time. I started, speaking of that, I've started thinking about my relationship to my past and my future self. And I think maybe that is a good, thinking about my future self wanting to eat a lot during Christmas. you should tell me. You can give me some therapy about that next episode. How I can contact my future self. Just as a preview, the theory I'm developing is that if you have three selves, your future self, your present self, and your past self, I think it's very confusing what you do about your past self because it's immutable. So it's just like, why bother, right? Like, and I've come up with, I think, 5 different things you can do about your past self, but I'm not really sure. There's just like, it's not useful. It's kind of like, there's always like those 3 to 15 utensils you have in your kitchen drawers, and you're like, I don't know why I have this. I don't ever do anything with it. Like, I could do something. Like, when am I ever going to want to spiral cut a cucumber? So why do I have this? Like,
I think you're thinking about it all wrong. The world has changed. Politicians now do not think that the past is immutable.
There you go.
Dangerous ground.
Well, I'll tell you
about perspective.
I'll tell you one thing that's immutable, listeners, is if you've listened this far, you can't change what happened unless you have a time machine. But I'm sure it was enjoyable. And if you don't subscribe to this podcast already, you should go to tanzutalk.com and figure out how to subscribe. We also live stream these each week, and you can check on that. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye. All right. Well, we had a lot of people chatting, and since
damn it, I always forget to look at the comments.
It's fine. Since it's a podcast, I try not to interact with them.